Hello everyone, and we're going to be doing another bass tutorial finally, and what we're going to be making is going to sound like this. And if you want that in context, yeah, there you go. So that's what we're going to be making. As a quick overview, what's went into make that, we've used a massive patch here. I've done a video on it already, I'll go over it quickly again though. Then we've turned that into a Serum wavetable. Well, that's how you do it, I'll show you how to do it. We've loaded that in Serum, so we can do stuff like this. And also, so you can modulate like that, and then what we've done was just stuck on a load of automation. So yeah. But I'm going to be showing you how to do all that to make something similar. You may notice there's actually two sounds here. There's this other one here. I'm not going to be showing you how to do that, but if you ask, I might do it in another video. If you're interested, it's this thing. It's the same thing. That's what it is basically. But we're not going to be showing you that, I'm just going to be showing you this one. So, the first thing you need to do is you need to get Massive up. If you don't have Massive, I am going to put the audio thing you used to make into the wavetable at the top of the description, so you can just do it without Massive. But Massive is great actually, so I recommend getting it. Here it is, I've done a video on it, it's called Heavy Neuro Bass, open brackets, frequent convex, close brackets. Ooh, too low. So it sounds pretty horrible actually. So quickly, there's a few key things I need to mention about this. Firstly, other than all the main things, you need to make sure that your oscillator 1 and your oscillator, well, modulation oscillator are detuned slightly. So this one's at 0.09 off multiple of 12. If you keep it at 0, you get no movement to the sound. The key thing so that's the key there, is you need to have it like that. Let's just make sure. Yep. So yeah, that's one key thing about that. Make sure you've got restart Vigate turned on, everything to the left. Nothing else is very important here. 4 voices, but no detune. But if you want me to go through the sound, look at the other video. I'll say it again. Heavy Neuro Bass, open brackets, frequent convex, close brackets. That's just a massive video. It was quite old now actually, but it's the same sound. We just need to make sure that you've got all that correct. Right, and once you've done that, you can quit that, and then you need to open up your automation. I have drawn in one long G, like that, and it lasts 1 bar at 172 beats a minute, because this is drum and bass, you may have guessed. And then we've modulated a few things. Firstly, in Massive mod, it's only called mod because I've labelled it mod. It's actually macro 3, and the macro 3 applies to the band reject, bandwidth, and the brightness of the amp, and maybe, yeah, and also some stuff on the EQ. As far as I know, that's all it applies to. Yeah. So that's what that's actually doing. If I show you what that sounds like, that's what it's actually doing. And so we've kind of got a downward curve here and up again at the end. When I first made this, these values are just purely arbitrary. I just made them up. But it worked out pretty well, let's be honest. You've also got an exciter on it. The exciter is quite key. If we turn the exciter off for a moment, what we're getting really, just get that sorted. How dull does that sound, right? So it just has a lot of like high-end grit, and then we've modulated the frequency of it. We've got the harmonic input pretty high here. It's like nearly 100% on this. And then we've just kind of done a little curve like that again, quite simple. Then we've got two of these, two sausage fatteners. The fatness is kind of there on that one, and on the second one it's about the same. But the thing we're modulating here is the colour, and they're both doing something completely different. First one is going absolutely nuts, and the second one is got more of a smooth sort of curve to it. Just copy the values if you're in any doubt, because yeah, they're pretty much arbitrary. And then in between the two sausage fatteners you've got this little EQ, and that's just because I wanted more harmonics in certain places. That's just all. That's all I've got to say about that. So that is your source sound here. So yeah. Then what we did is we bounced it down to audio, which is this. I think what I've done here actually is you need to make sure that that speed is turned up high enough. I think mine was about there. So now they should sound. That's too quick. There, that's it, yeah. But you need to make sure that you've got it at a speed which means it completes about one cycle of its sort of wobble in about one bar. There is a way of working it out using sort of maths, but let's not bother with that. So yes, we bounce it to audio. You end up with this. I kept a version of it on my desktop. Oh, damn it, which one is it? This one? Yep, that one. Right, and then what I'm going to do is to show you how to load it up, I'm going to create a new track and do it from scratch. So, this bit requires Serum, clearly, for records. Serum, stereo. Serum is a massive CPU hog, so this might glitch out a bit. We need to, yeah. There we are. Right, to load in a piece of audio, you have to click on that edit button there. And then, first thing you're going to do is you're going to go down here and you're going to type in G0. That is telling the computer what note to process it with, and because we used this piece of MIDI, we picked a G. It's not actually G0 on this scale, but that's the note we actually end up sounding, because G2 down 2 octaves is G0. So you basically need to put in a number for what note you've got. G0 is what we've got here, so you type it in. Let's just do it again. Yeah, and then it tells you some information. So 900 samples, 49 Hertz, G0 and 0 cents. So the important bit here is the 900 samples. And then once you know you've got your number, you go fire fixed frame size. That's the way I do it, there's other ways. And you find what it was that. Then you type in 900, press enter, and click OK. And then it jumps in the wavetable for you, and now you can kind of and that is that piece of audio, but split into multiple different waveforms, which is really quite cool. So we can now fiddle around with this. Which sounds okay, but there's one thing we're going to do is we're going to add morph tables. Now you may notice that we've only got 68 of these things. If you scroll across, it only goes up to 68. That's just because we didn't use a very long audio file to process. If I'd have had it like 5 bars or something, we'd have got about 256 or something, but we didn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some morph tables using that little morph drop down, and you're going to go spectral. I'm not going to explain the difference between these two. I think in Seamless's live stream with Steve Duda, they did go through and explain the difference. I'm not going to, but I picked spectral for this. Then it does some processing, and then you'll see we've now got the full 256 of them, which means now it's got like little wavetables in between the main ones. So yeah, that's what we end up with. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm now going to go back to the original one and show you what else I did, because I've actually forgotten, you know, as you do. So we delete that one. Now go back into Serum in this. This is the actual one. Okay, so we've got it loaded in. We've done what we just did. We added the 256 different wavetables, and yeah. So yeah, you see that number goes up to 256. So then what we need to do is we need to modulate some stuff, and we need to add some things. First thing you're going to add is a sub, because the original thing in Massive is really not very sub heavy. There is literally no sub in it at all, and so it sounds really quite weak if you just leave it. So click to turn on the sub, make sure it's on direct out, which means it's not going to be distorted on the way out. Make sure it's an octave 0, put the amp all the way up, and have a triangle wave. Sine wave subs are popular, but you know, why not jazz it up a bit with a triangle wave. Okay, and then that's that, no noise, which is good, and then we're going to add a bit of some kind of warping, and sync is what we're going to use, and the sync is macro 2. This is what it sounds like. Hang on a second. Okay, yeah, that's what it sounds like. What it does, it just kind of squashes that waveform up to the left, so you can watch it go. And that's just something we're going to be modulating. So to do that, you need to go to Sync Window, Window Full. There's different versions of it. That just means that you don't get kind of a click at the beginning and the end of the waveform, which is the way you want it to be, really. So go Sync Window Full and leave it at that, and then you can stick both of those all the way down, so we're ready to modulate them. Before we do that, we're going to add the filter, turn on the filter, put it to flanges, and then phase 12+, which means we've just got one kind of dip. And then do what I've done here. Cutoff is kind of a third of the way up, resonance is kind of 2/5 of the way up, pan center obviously, a bit of drive, and then the mix is just above halfway. That's just because if you have the mix up all the way, it sounds quite, let's see. It just sounds too obvious for me, so just, yeah, not all the way up, just a bit up. And then the resonance, it's just best not to have it too steep. So that's what we've done with the filter. The filter's pretty simple, actually. Right, then the last thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to modulate some stuff. So first thing you modulate is macro 1. The macro 1's doing two things. It's on the wavetable position, which goes from 0 to all the way up. And it's also going to be on this filter frequency cutoff, I suppose, and that just goes up to kind of 3/4-ish. If you don't know how to do it, you can. The way I do it usually is just right-click, mod source, click on what you want. The one we're doing is macro 1, which is there. Same on there, macro 1, and then you can just like drag the little blue kind of, is it a circle? Yeah, I don't know. Drag that up to where you want it. We said it was about kind of nearly 3/4-ish, and that's what we're doing. And then you're done with that one. Macro 2 is only doing one thing, as denoted by this number, and that's just on the sync window size. We didn't want to go all the way up, because if we go all the way up with it, it's ridiculous. So we just need to keep it down to there, and then take it up to about 2/5, which is 11 o'clock-ish if you want. And that's all for this main page here. You don't have to use any of these kind of LFOs and stuff. It's all pretty simple. I have got mono and legato checked on, and the portamentos at kind of a bit below halfway. That's just a MIDI reason, which I might get to later, maybe. But the thing we do next is add some distortion. Without distortion, this is what it sounds like. It just sounds fatter when you've got the tube distortion on. So it's the default one is tube. You need your filter off, and then just stick the drive up to kind of nearly all the way up, and the mix all the way up. It just adds some grit to it, and that's what we're going for here. So that's the Serum thing sorted. So make sure you've got your macros labelled correctly. Then you can quit that, and you can go to here. Let's just... So then the only thing left to do is actually do all the modulation stuff. What we're modulating here, actually, before we do that, shall I go and do the effects? Okay, number one, tube amp. This is free, voxing is it Vox and Go or Vox and Joe? I never know. But just mode 2, drive at 7.3 all the way up, and then a bit out the outgain. That just a bit more distortion. Don't know if you can hear the difference. No, it's pretty similar, to be honest. We've got a vibrato. It's only on 6% for all of it, but we've brought it up. Hang on, occasionally. Vibrato depth. Let's find it. Yeah, it comes up occasionally to about 50, which sounds pretty cool. Other thing we've got an EQ. That's just adding a mids, because if you you see that we've got very few mids in there. Hang on. Yeah, it just gets a few more around there, which is good. That's all that's doing. Compressor. This is a side chaining thing. You do not need to worry about that unless you're going to be doing side chaining, so we can ignore that. Adding a bit of kind of higher bass harmonics in. That was this was given away for free. It was a while ago now, but that's just adding some higher bass harmonics, so it's more the subs more audible on smaller systems. It's quite useful. Then we've got a stereo tool. This is a harsh effect thing. A very subtle thing just between these two frequencies, and then kind of 20 millisecond delay, and not very much of it. And that's just if you do it with and without. Just it adds a bit of kind of width to it, because I found that when you played through the whole drop on this, you found it was very, very much, just if you watch the correlation was right up there, and that's not good really. If you've got no stereo width, we'll take those off. Yeah. So yeah, it just sounded very mono, so we added some width with that, and then just a little bit of reverb, only on the very high end, not for very long, quite dense, and quite quiet really. Mine's 8.8. That's just because it sounds really quite dead if you just, let's just, and then put it with, kind of brings it to life a bit more. Right, now we can go on to the automation-y stuff. There's some things you need to automate. Volume is not something to worry about, that's just the thing I was doing. The two main things are macro 1 and macro 2, and that's basically all you have to automate. Okay, macro 1 goes absolutely insane for most of this. You can copy those values exactly, if I zoom in for you, that's what they are. But as a general rule when automating this, you need to keep the values kind of around 70, because at 70 it's quite, and then down low it gets kind of weird, really high it gets kind of weak. So keep it around 70. Yeah, 40 and 50 is a bit rubbish too. But yeah, so you get most of the power when it's around the kind of upper mid level of the percentage thing. That's the general rule. Just go crazy with it. It sounds pretty cool no matter what you do. Macro 2, you may remember this is assigned to the sync window kind of amount. There it is. And that's kind of, if I go up and down on that for a bit, you'll see what difference that makes. That's what that's doing. In practice, I don't use that like excessively. That's a lot more calm in its general curves. We've gone up occasionally, we've come down occasionally, a smooth curve up. But yeah, don't do like really sudden kind of sharp angles on this. It just doesn't help much. So that's what all your modulating. Then obviously there was a bit of vibrato. We will find where I did the vibrato. There it is. Here's the bit. Let's just listen to that. It's really hard to hear because it's quite short. There's a longer one somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So you kind of hear, you can hear that it's kind of gives it quite a nice wobble to it. It's good stuff. And that's it actually. There's the other bass. I might do another video on that one. But yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been a while since I last did a bass video, so it's nice to do one of these again. I hope you subscribe and stick around for the next video I might do, which might be on that sound. that sound is this. But until then, goodbye. Thank you for watching.